Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brero Skerensky, and yes, I know the subject of this unboxing is resting on its side, but this thing is huge. From top to bottom, or from side to side, whatever you prefer. This thing is larger than 45 centimeters. I don't have the physical space to place the camera that far back to keep the box upright. And I really want to see what's inside, so let's do our usual tour of the box and then let's get straight into the contents. The front cover has an illustration of the figure with the Dark Souls logo and what's inside. Kurokishi is of course the Japanese for Black Knight, and the figure is in 1/6 scale. On the top left corner we have a sticker for the special bonus as I've pre-ordered this figure, and it includes all the weapons used by the Black Knights in the first Dark Souls. On the left side we have the sculptor and the painter's profile, alongside everyone else who worked on the project. On the top we have again what's inside this box, and on the back just a couple of legal and technical details. The left side opens with a brief introduction on who the Black Knights are. We have an introduction of the game, again who the Black Knights are, and the features of this figure. The back is dedicated to an illustration of the Black Knight as seen on the Dark Souls cover. But enough of the box, let's take a look at this Black Knight itself. Okay, here we have a card that it's glued in more than one way. Okay, I'll do this later. We also have a background of Lordran directly from the game, and if I'm not mistaken this is the tower in Undead Burg where you find the Great Sword Black Knight early in the game. So everything is held by the usual, at least for figures, clear plastic. We have an instruction printed on appropriate paper. On top we have the Gecco seal of quality. So the other way is better. And in another usual feature for figures, everything is held together by a copious use of duct tape. Let's try to peel off the seal of quality. Yeah, nice and easy. Okay, and the first layer has the first sword, the shield with a hand, the Black Knight itself, then we have the base, and finally we have the extra weapons. We start off with a set of extra hands. Both are right hands. The great axe, the halberd blade, the pole for the halberd, and yeah, from this side, finally the great sword. I know you all want to see the statue itself, but before that, let's take a look at the instructions. There are two sheets. One is for the standard figure and the other one, unfortunately printed on just white paper, for the extra weapons. Everything is written in 3 languages. I think the first is Japanese, then English and finally Chinese. Instructions are pretty straightforward, although the head can accept batteries for LEDs. That's very cool. I hope I have those batteries. Yes, I know, it's not the figure, but it's the card that was inside the box. On the front we have the representation of the Black Knight, and on the back a brief recap of who sculpted and painted this figure, as well as a brief description of the subject and how it was done. And finally, I'm starting off with the figure by removing the head, the protective plastic, and oh wow, it's broken. That's very unfortunate. Doesn't look particularly hard to fix, but that's very unfortunate. Let's take a look. However, oh, maybe the batteries are inside. Yes, they are inside, and now I'll just need to understand how can I fix this, because I've noticed here there is a piece of solder that came out of this thing. If I just place these like that, maybe I'm shorting things out. That's unfortunate. I'll try to see if I can repair these by myself. This is very unfortunate. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to repair these with the tools I have, and no, I don't have any kind of soldering equipment. But one thing I learned is that putting the batteries back into this compartment is kinda difficult, and you will need some tool to keep the spring down and then put the batteries in. And unfortunately, I'm not able to show you anything. By the way, there is a switch here, and no, nothing lights up. That's very unfortunate, but let's continue with the figure itself. In assembling the figure, I will go from bottom to top, starting with the base, and the Black Knight feet go into these pegs. And here we are. Let's attach the best medium shield in the whole game to its master, and okay, this takes a bit of force to properly snap it in, and here we are. For the Black Knight sword, we first remove the hand, then we unplug the handle, which is quite alright. Then we slide these in with the proper facing, and it's quite hard to slide in, and it shouldn't go past this apparently. And then finally, so the peg, as you can see here, there is a side to indicate where it should go. And so here it goes back in, and here we are. Finally, the head with its very rushed attempt to repair the LEDs, and the battery cover just snapped out. I want to keep this in so that the batteries won't leak acid, and the Black Knight is complete. The figure stands tall at 41 centimeters, and with a very general look at the figure, I don't see any smudges or bad prints, mishandled paint. The only thing I can see is that there are a couple of flash lines on the sword, and the shield is actually two pieces put together, the front and the back. And you can see the junction line all around it. The base is nothing to speak about. It's simple, but it does its work. And to be honest, overall, the figure is very detailed, but I think it's less detailed than Oscar of Astoria, which I unboxed I think a couple of years later. The chainmail on the skirt and on the arms is detailed, but not quite as much as Oscar's, or at least the very dark tone of the paint gives that impression. However, all the details on the armor and the shield are absolutely fantastic. The armor itself is very dark black, while the detailing is trimmed in gold. Talking about the head, I really wish I could light up the LEDs inside. And there is nothing much to speak about this. The head is a simple helm with no moving parts. Let's take a look at the extra weapons, starting with the Great Axe. That to handle it to the Black Knight, you have to unplug a very stiff handle. Do we have to unscrew it? No. And here it goes. So there are two extra hands, and the only difference is how big the hole in the hand itself is. So for this one we have to use the... let's see. Okay, yes, it's the small one. Sorry. Although I wonder if I did the correct thing, because I see that the hand is leaving scratches of paint. And this is the Great Axe. This is the Great Sword, and by comparison, wow, it's larger than the frame. This is the Great Axe, and while I'm at it, let's take a look at the halberd. That it is by far the longest of the three extra weapons. So the Great Sword, just the final part here. That, just like everything else, is quite stiff, and there it goes. And the Great Sword we'll need the large hand. So there is a peg, and while the halberd okay, you can go both ways, but yeah, this is another weapon that will require the small hand, just like the great axe. This is another wonderful figure from Gecco, but if I have to be completely honest, I prefer Oscar. And this is mostly due to Oscar being a, well, more colorful subject than the Black Knight. The details on this figure are astounding, and everything is done to perfection, although Oscar is a bit more impressive due to the Elite Knight set, which is more detailed than the Black Knight armor. But don't get me wrong, this is an astounding figure that everyone interested in Dark Souls and good figures should try to get. And I say try because this figure, as every other Gecco product, is incredibly expensive and probably sold out minutes after the pre-orders went live. If you have the chance, absolutely get one of these. You will not get disappointed. I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing and you'll stick around for more. Briare Oskarensky, over and out.